The Detroit Lions are officially into their offseason training. OTAs kicked off a few days ago, and with that being the case, obviously they are going to have some news and rumors coming out of camp. News about what players look great, what players look a little bit disappointing, some injury news, some transformation news, some second and third year jumps from certain players, and just overall how the Detroit Lions are looking early in the offseason. And today, we are going to take a look at all of those news and rumors, starting off with the most positive news of the day, that being the transformation and the third-year leap that Jameson Williams seems to be taking. Now, by all accounts, by accounts of Dan Campbell and Ben Johnson and some of the players in the media, Jameson Williams is by far the Detroit Lions' most improved player this offseason. When Dan Campbell was asked about Jameson Williams going into offseason training, he said that Jameson Williams looked like a man on a mission. He has improved every single aspect of his game and is looking to be the reliable wide receiver too that the Detroit Lions are now missing in the absence of Josh Reynolds, who of course left this offseason for a contract in Denver. Now, Jameson Williams, from all accounts from the media, from the head coaches, and from some of the players, seems a lot more confident in his ability this year. He's not really second guessing himself in between the snaps, in particularly when the play is called to, when the one snap ends and the next snap begins. Jameson Williams seems a lot more confident in between those snaps. Whereas then the last two off seasons, he seemed a little bit unsure of himself, seemed like maybe he wasn't 100% confident where he was supposed to line up, wasn't 100% confident what route he was supposed to run or what depth he was supposed to be at every single time. There was some second guessing, there was some second thoughts, and there was some hesitation leading obviously to him overthinking, leading to him having some drops, leading to him maybe not being targeted as often as he would like to be. But those woes seem to be gone. He seems to be a lot more confident between the snaps. His professionalism between the snaps seems to have taken a massive step forward. And even in a press conference he put out, he said, yeah, in the first year or two, he was a little bit immature. He kind of thought he was not better than the coaching staff, but thought that he could kind of coast by a little bit like he did at Alabama and just rely on his natural talents and not necessarily have to be that, I guess, not dedicated isn't the right word, but, was saying that he was a little bit immature. Maybe he didn't take the playbook as seriously as he could. But going into this year, Jameson Williams seems to have taken a massive step forward in the mentality aspect, in the mindset aspect, in just being a professional athlete, right? Being ready for training camp, being prepared mentally for training camp. And by all accounts, it is leading to Jameson Williams being one of the most impressive players at camp, right? Because when you're not thinking about the route you have to run, then you can run the route more fluidly. You can focus on your hands. You can feel your way through the route better. And when you're not second guessing every step you're taking, you're going to become a more fluid and a better athlete and a better player on the field. And that seems to be the effect that Jameson Williams has had this offseason. In other news, another player that is having quite a good offseason so far in the very early stages is former third-round selection Broderick Martin. Now, Broderick Martin was a third-round pick in the 2023 NFL Draft just a year ago for the Detroit Lions out of Western Kentucky. Brad Holmes decided to trade back into the latter end of the third round of the NFL Draft, giving up three day 3 selections to get the Western Kentucky product. And a lot of people were disappointed by Martin last year. A lot of people thought that playing in just 3 games and starting none was not a great look for the third round selection, but there was a reason for that. Broderick Martin didn't look ready for the NFL. When he showed up to training camp a season ago, he didn't look like an NFL athlete. He didn't look like an NFL defensive tackle yet. And yeah, he was 6'5", 330 pounds. He was a big ball of clay, but he didn't look like he was ready for the NFL. And in the snaps that he got, it was pretty apparent that he had a lot of work to be done. But after showing up to OTAs this season, Broderick Martin is noticeably bigger. He is noticeably stronger. He is very visibly different looking from where he was at the end of last season. Whereas last year, he was a little bit bigger. He was a little bit, I would say, less toned and less muscular. This year, he showed up a lot more toned with a lot more definition, very clearly putting on a significant amount of muscle. And even though we haven't really seen him in a lot of action so far because a lot of OTAs has been closed to the media, it does seem like Broderick Martin, from a physicality standpoint, from just a physique standpoint, has improved drastically and looks like he's ready for the NFL season this year. It looks like he's put on some good muscle, some good weight. And I do think that is going to help him be an impact player in 2024, potentially getting some rotation with Aleem McNeil and DJ Reader to be a really good trio of interior defensive tackles and run stoppers. Now, moving forward with a little bit of less positive news, Dan Campbell did say there was a little bit of an injury bug going around, and not every single one of these players is officially out or is officially not going to be ready for camp or anything like that. But there are a lot of players that are suffering through some early offseason injuries. There are some players that are taking and coming along very slowly in the training camp process. And unfortunately, there are quite a large number of players who are not available for OTAs this week, and a large number of them will not be back until the offseason is kind of complete, until training camp kind of gets started a week, or a month or two down the road. Now, this list includes starting left tackle Taylor Decker, starting center Frank Ragnow, all-pro tight end Sam Laporta, backup guard Coyote Awaska, who started in the NFC Championship game last year, first round selection from last year, Jahmyr Gibbs, backup quarterback Nate Sudfeld, backup quarterback Zonovan Knight, starting free safety Kirby Joseph, starting edge rusher Marcus Davenport, starting slot cornerback Brian Branch, starting defensive tackle DJ Reader, backup edge rusher / defensive tackle John Kaminsky, starting linebacker Derek Barnes, backup cornerback, but also starting and kind of competing for that starting spot in Emmanuel Mosley at cornerback. First round selection from this year, Terrion Arnold. Second round selection from this year, Ennis Rakestraw Jr., as well as team captain and starting linebacker Alex Anzalone. That is about 16, 17 players that are limited or out for OTAs, which is not good for the Detroit Lions, to say the very least. Obviously, you want everybody to be healthy, but it didn't seem like there was anybody the Lions were too concerned about. I know that they said Brian Branch in particular probably wouldn't be ready until training camp, but Decker always seems to come along slowly in the preseason, as does Frank Ragnow, right? Two guys that are huge parts of the offensive line, veterans of the NFL, take their time getting back to camp, take their time getting back to OTAs. Obviously, some of the concerning ones are Branch and Arnold and Rakestraw that are coming along slowly. Anzalone, again, one of those veterans that you can afford to have come along a little bit slower. Obviously, Gibbs and Joseph are a little bit more concerning, whereas Reader and Davenport maybe not so much. I don't think there's anything too massive in this group. I don't think there's anybody that's going to miss the entire season, and everybody should be ready for camp. Obviously, with about 2 months to go until the preseason kicks off, and about 3 months until the regular season is ready to go, there's a good chance that Decker and Ragnow and Laporta and potentially even Gibbs and Branch and Anzalone don't play in the preseason. So they have even more time to recover, more time to get back. But it is a lot of injuries, and it is a pretty significant amount of news. So I did want to mention that, but I don't think it's anything too drastic that needs to be covered too in depth. Now, taking a look back at some of the positive news, a player that is very active in training camp and very is active at OTAs is Carlton Davis, who has shined very early in the OTA process, with a near interception off of Jared Goffin in 7-on-7s, being step for step with Jameson Williams down the boundary and step for step with Jameson Williams in pretty much every single rep so far, and just bringing an energy and a physicality to the secondary that wasn't there a season ago. Right? The biggest issue with the secondary last year, apart from giving up massive plays and massive yardage, was that there was no physicality in the secondary. There was no cornerback that was stepping up and pressing big wide receivers. There was no cornerback that was stepping up and being physical at the line of scrimmage, because they just simply couldn't afford to do it. They didn't have players with the skill set or the physicality to do that, and so they didn't and couldn't ask that of their secondary. But that seems to have changed with Carlton Davis. Carlton Davis is right in everybody's face. He is right up there on the line of scrimmage, getting contact early, playing like a true cornerback one, and it has been very impressive so far by all accounts of the coaching staff and the media. Dan Campbell seems to be impressed. Aaron Glenn seems to be very, very happy with his new cornerback one. And it is a fun thing to watch to finally have a true CB1 playing for the Detroit Lions yet again. Now, the last little bit of news we have today is obviously the news that everybody wants to know. How is the kicking battle going in OTA so far? Well, pretty positively. Michael Badgley was perfect on the day, did not miss a kick. An undrafted rookie free agent, James Turner, was really good all day. The only kick he missed was a 60-yard kick to end practice, a very long, very difficult kick for any kicker to make, especially a rookie adjusting to NFL posts. I do not have a problem necessarily with James Turner missing a kick from 60 in his first OTAs. He was really good from short distance, really good from everything within 60 yards, which is a majority of the kicks you're going to have in the NFL. Michael Badgley was perfect and obviously still has that edge, but James Turner is putting up a pretty good fight as well early on. And I think the days of having a bad and a worse kicker are over for the Detroit Lions. And now they're going to have a nice little competition for two kickers that I think are pretty quality and two kickers that I think the Lions should have confidence in going into the 2024 season. So with all of that being said, that is the first batch of OTA news and rumors. Some really positive stuff, a little bit of negative stuff, but overall the Lions seem to be in a very good situation moving forward with a lot of great opportunity for some young players to step up and make an impact. But with all of that being said, that is life for you guys today. Let me know down in the comments below how you feel about this OTA news. If there's anything you really like, anything you're really concerned about, be very curious to you guys have to say down in the comments. With all of that being said, as I for you guys today, thank you all so very much for watching. And until next time, and as always, go Lions.